Hello, Word Nerds! Happy Sunday, and welcome to the Sunday special, where this week we're talking about the writing process. So, like every week, it is a live chat about all things writing. We will probably get a little bit off topic, but we're going to start on topic and kind of go from there. So, because we are talking about the writing process, usually we do like a starting question, book review. This time we're going with, what is your favorite part of the writing process and why? And then we'll kind of see the conversation from there. And the video just started on the side of my screen. All right, so Erin, you are first. What is your favorite part of the writing process?
Probably, I love plotting, so that'll probably be my number one right now. And then getting inspired and then starting plotting when all the ideas are rushing at you. That's the most exciting part with all my cue cards and maps and stuff like that. So, and why? Because I'm an obsessive plotter.
I think I know the answer, but Erica, what about you?
Revisions. Specifically, the first round of revisions. Basically, the first draft for me is just like slamming my face on a cinder block wall for a couple of days or weeks. It's a great experience, is what I'm saying. But once I finish the first draft and do that first round of revisions, especially if I'm reading through it and not hating it, I get so excited, and I think I like it the most because I have something to work with. So I don't, my big problem is the blank screen and that blank page of like, oh, now you've got to write everything. So good luck. But once you get to revisions, it's like you just got to fix it now. Tweak this here, add that there. Just fix it. But at least you have something. Maybe it's because I work with deadlines, and I'm like, if I don't have something, I have nothing.
And Megan?
I am like Erin. I love the plotting first draft phase. I'm also a huge plotter, and so whereas for pantsers, like the magic sometimes is in deciding that things are going to happen as they're writing it. Like for me, that moment happens while I'm plotting, and I love it, and I love the first draft because it's like, hey, I can't make this any worse. Sometimes in revisions, I'm not sure if I'm making it better until like the third or fourth round, but with first draft, this is always going to be better than nothing.
For me, I really like the very, very, very beginning and the very, very, very end. So like the beginning of like pre-even plotting, because plotting is something I've only kind of started to play with, but like that initial idea, writing down everything that's come into your head, writing that first scene or whatever you have that's gotten you really excited. And I have just like folder upon folder of ideas, which I just love because for the most part it doesn't require any actual work. I could just keep adding to things in my head as I'm sitting doing other things. And then it actually becomes hard work after that point. And then the end of like marketing the books and stuff, that like once the book is actually out there and how you can build up buzz for it and build a community around your book, that's a lot of fun. Writing I enjoy, but it's a lot harder than the rest of it.
That's true. The after phase of writing is much better than the in stage of writing.
Yeah, like
when you're done, you're like, there's nothing I can do anymore, but hope people love it.
That phase is also a little bit terrifying.
It is, but like a good terrifying, usually.
If it goes well.
Kind of terrifying.
If it goes badly, then it's mostly just like bad terrifying.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I almost wore that exact same headband, but I think in a different color.
Oh, you guys should have.
You would have been twins.
What are we thinking?
I was even wearing like a similar shade of lipstick earlier today, so I'm glad I went a different direction.
I'm not sad you did.
I'm disappointed.
So then Erica and I would have been like, did we miss like a memo?
Yeah, like, didn't you get it? You guys were supposed to coordinate, and me and Kelly coordinated.
We got to copy us on the email for it.
We totally should do a twin day or something.
Or like for Halloween, dress as a different word nerd. Like, don't say who you're gonna be. Everyone just dresses someone else. Or maybe
that
like
would be amazing.
Like, Secret Santa, so everyone is like covered once. So you have to kind of guess who you are.
Everybody comes as one person.
Yeah.
They're all like...
You would bring the WordNerds hangout, like on Friends.
It'd be so funny.
I feel like any one of you, I would know how to dress. Like, you all have very distinct styles, but this is very off topic. Also, that time I made Sims of all of you, that I feel like that connected me with your styles.
That was part of the writing process too. Character development.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we start at the beginning of the writing process then, since that's kind of in there too, character development. The first idea, plotting. How do you do it?
I usually start, like, I usually have some moment where, like, little tidbits that I've been thinking of, like, come together. I'm like, oh, this would be a good idea. I need to write this down. And for, like, weeks, however long it takes for me to feel like I have enough to start an actual plot, I just write down, like, flashes that come to me. Like, a boy on a boat, fighting with so-and-so, this person saying this, and until I have a list that's, like, this long.
I like the boy on a boat. I'm intrigued to learn more about the boy on the boat. For me, when I plot, I have to obviously have an idea to start, and usually I don't like sit down and just think of ideas. They usually come to me, and then I write them down. And like Kelly, I've got like folders. Well, really, for me, it's all on my phone and like the note app where I've got tons of ideas, just like a sentence of like skeleton gate. And I'm like, good, great start. But then I'll sit down and I'll like go further into that. But when I start plotting, like once I have a synopsis, I guess it's kind of the main thing that I start with, like a quick summary that is nothing close to what I put on the back of a book, but just something that will remind me what I'm writing and why I wanted to write it and what the plot is. I'll start just doing an outline, which is just like, I literally just do bullet points of here's what happens, then this, then this, then this, and then I fill it in later with the actual more action and words and stuff, because an outline is not a full book.
That's basically what I do too.
I feel like I'm always changing my process because, like, well, part of it's always plotting. Like, I get the idea, and then I'm really excited about it, and I, like, take, like, a crap ton of notes. But, like, I always have, like, a different plot structure outline thing that I'm experimenting with. This time in a website called Write Like Rowling, it's called, and there's, like, it outlines how she does the first book, and, like, plot points and pinch points it's called, and, like, oh, the action should be, like, really rising to a peak here, and I don't know, I'm always experimenting with different stuff like that. Has Erica gone black for anyone else?
Yes.
Oh no.
Okay, I was wondering.
I'm here, I promise.
I can't see you.
Coming back.
You're gone. I can only hear you.
Hello.
I really liked, there you are.
There you are.
I really liked what you said, Erin, about your process always changing, because I feel like with species, we have to like always be evolving, or we're just gonna at some point our environment is gonna make it so that we can't adapt and we die out. And I think that it's the same way with writing processes. Like if it's not always evolving and always changing, at some point you're gonna get bored, or it's not gonna work for you anymore, and you're just gonna stop.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, it's an interesting getting feedback from like the last story I did was like a certain plot outline, like hero's journey type thing, and then I got some feedback from people saying like this plot after this point seems mechanical to me. I'm like this happens, and this happens, and I'm like okay, gotta switch it up and try like a different outline, maybe go out of the lines a little bit and don't do like this happens and then this happens and then this happens and change up the plot line and stuff. So I don't know. It's always like a huge, big, fat experiment to see what works and what doesn't work. So
for me, I've noticed that if anything, I tend to go more like the longer I'm writing, the more I tend to start plotting. Like at the beginning, I was a hardcore pantser. I was like full. I'm just gonna write it, see where it goes, and I'll fix everything in revisions because I love revisions. But then I started thinking more about my books and I started plotting them, and it turns into more elaborate outlines, especially if I'm doing a series. Like the first book might be pretty bare, but then by book 2 or book 3, it's like paragraphs instead of just one line of outlines, which helps later. It's like when you write an outline for a paper and you just have to fill in the meat the more extensive you have the outline, the easier it is to move forward and not be like, but I don't know what comes next.
Yes, that's what I ran into, that problem with my last one. Astronaut is good, and I'm finding like I'm trying not to get stuck in my ways of when I'm writing the rough draft. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want to write this scene, so I'm going to skip way ahead and write the scene. And me, I'm like, my brain doesn't function that way, so I sit down, I write from beginning, chapter 1, until I write the end. And a lot of people don't work like that. And I found that if I do that, unfortunately, sometimes I am sacrificing things that I should go back and change. So I've been just taking notes in the margins instead. Like I never did that before. I'm like, why haven't I done that up till now? So I'm just like putting little track changes and having notes along, like go back and put this in, you know, on the second pass through. And
Never
then I don't
turn around. Never turn around. If you turn around to go and fix it, you're lost. The monsters will eat you. That's part of my writing process, is going forward until you hit the end.
Monsters.
Then turn around and be like, ah.
At the same time, though, I've said this a lot of times before, I don't always write in order. I don't tend to go back, but if I'm stuck, I will move forward to the next plot point that I know. Like, I won't just...
should do that.
Like, writing out what you know comes next will help it make it clear of what that middle bridge needs to be, I think, and, like, you don't need to stop and take a week to figure out what that middle part's going to be if you can keep writing now. Then, like,
yeah. See, for me, if I start writing something that I like better,
I could too.
Yeah, if I start writing something that I like better, I will never go back.
I did that.
And
Yeah,
read the other stuff.
That's what I'm doing right now, and it's really bad.
That's why I usually just, if I get stuck on a point where I'm like, I have no idea what comes next, but I know that like a little bit down the line, I've got this thing happening. I just write until I can get to there. I just push. I'm like, well, how do you get from A to B? And then if it's terrible, I take it out later and change it. But at least, like, for me, my brain is too chronological to, it's like I know they film movies out of order in TV shows, but to me, I don't get it.
Yeah,
how do
my
you do that and
does
keep
not
it straight in your
function that
head?
way. Yeah, same.
I'd be so confused, but I wish I
Yeah.
could do that, because then it'd be so much better or freer to write.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, the reason I abandoned my last one, because it's a new shiny idea, and I was like, oh my god, I have to write this. And I was really, really excited to write it. But it's also because I got so stuck on the one that I was currently writing, because, like, I don't usually stray from my plot line, but I really strayed from my plot line. And then it was just like it was like set at this like royal court, so there's like 52 different plot lines and like dangling threads I have to try to like weave through and wrap up, and like I don't even know who the villain is anymore. Like, how am I supposed to go forward, right? I have to sit down and replot the entire thing out, and by then it was just like, oh my god, never mind, I want to start on this new idea. So
Yeah.
Now halfway
We have
through
a comment. We have a comment from Rose. She wants to know, what's easier, planning dialogue or planning what the book is going to be about? I say the book, because I don't know dialogue until I know the book.
Yeah, I don't plan my
I know,
dialogue.
they can't talk about anything unless something's happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
So
usually
maybe
have,
that's not easier. Maybe that's more like essential.
Yeah. I don't think you need to plot dialogue. It just should, how your plot goes, the dialogue should go with it. So.
Yeah, the dialogue should flow naturally from what's happening.
But I know I
Although-
read a lot of beginning manuscripts where the characters stand around and talk about like absolutely meaningless stuff, which may be a result of people plotting dialogue. I don't know.
Yeah, if you get too committed to a certain line of dialogue, sometimes you force it in even when it doesn't fit, and you have to be aware that like sometimes it doesn't fit. But I will say that I have had times when I've had an idea for like a scene with characters that has involved dialogue. Like for Insight, there's a scene where they hotwire a car, and that was one of the first ideas that I had of just this new character that kind of cemented the character's personality and who she was this hot wiring of the car. So I came up with the dialogue before I filled out that whole scene. But I had the plot for the book at that point. So I just had to find a way to put it in there without it being forced.
Well, what kind of came up before, but also in the planning stage, what do you do in terms of character development, in terms of fleshing out your character? How many of the secondary characters do you take the time to really get to know, or do you just focus on the main character and the love interest? What do you do?
Half the time, my secondary characters are more like interesting than the main character, and this is the second time I'm doing it, so I have to go back and make sure that my main character is interesting, because I don't know why. The sidekick is half the time overshadowing the main character, and I have to go back and like change it.
I think there's a point that like we do try to make sidekicks really interesting though, so that they don't feel just like secondary thoughts. You know, like when I'm doing character development, of course the first thing I do, I focus on my main characters, usually the point of view first, and then whatever the secondary main character is, because there's usually 2 main characters, and then I go and flesh out everybody else. But I do want to make sure that every character gets the attention to be fully formed and realistic, otherwise I can't hear their voice, and when I'm writing dialogue, it is all over the place, because I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, I find that I don't know who my main character is until the second time round. Like on my first draft, I'm sort of discovering who she is, and she's not really fully formed until the second one.
Yeah, definitely.
Initially, it's easy to let your main character be defined by the things that are going to happen to them, but then as you get to know them more.
That's something I really learned from feedback and stuff from beta readers, which is so great. It's just that like so many of them told me the first time around, like, your character is just being pushed around by what's happening to her, and she needs to like decide on a plan and like take action, and she needs to drive the story instead of having the story drive her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that actually 9 out of 10 manuscripts that I read for Beth, that is the big problem. The main character is being active
passive
and not acting.
Yeah. They're too passive, yeah, definitely. Well, it's hard to especially for people that are plotters and their story is very plot driven. It's hard for us not to let the plot take over and drive the character around. So people, I think, that are probably really character focused and they love that aspect of their story, it's probably easier for them to make their characters make the decisions and make the story happen through the characters.
Yeah.
And I think passive characters can serve a purpose at points, but it has to be intentional for it to read right, you know, and sometimes it's not, like, they're not aware that that's the case. So I think you have to be really cognizant of who's running who. You know, is the plot in charge or is the character in charge, and is that on purpose?
So have you guys found
anything? If it's not, it needs to get fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Revisions. Have you guys found anything has changed about your writing process, like exponentially? Like, yes, Megan's nodding already.
I think like the first book I ever wrote, it was for a NaNoWriMo, and I just like threw this plot together, and it was just kind of like all the things I thought would be fun and funny or whatever.
Nano book.
Yeah. And so I've definitely, as I've grown, I've learned more about like 3-act structure and like beat sheets and stuff. And while I don't necessarily follow any of them like exactly, I do try and implement a lot of them in. And I'm reading about like screenplays now, and that's really fascinating.
Is it Save the Cat?
No, it's called Story.
Oh, okay. Oh, another one that I have to add to my list. I just ordered Save the Cat, so that should be coming in the mail soon.
I want to read that one too. But Story had like really high ratings on Amazon, so.
Oh, there's so many good books I have to buy.
Well, my problem isn't buying them. My problem is reading them. I have so many craft books. I've not read that many.
Really? I got it from the library, so it's like I have to read it because they're going to want it.
Time limit. Yep. That might be a good thing for me because then I'll have a time limit where I have to read it.
You've got 2 weeks. Go.
Yeah. Pressure!
We've got a few more comments. This one is from C. Willis. She says, she loves writing the initial draft but can't get into revising, mostly because she doesn't know how. She's watched Megan's video on revisions a billion times, but she doesn't think that the process works for her. Any other suggestions for how to get into revising and actually make progress? What I do is I force myself to do it. Even though I like it, sitting down to do it is always the hardest part. But, like, I take it a chapter at a time. So if I say, like, if you do a chapter a day, you're done in, like, this amount of time. Or if you do 2 chapters a day, you're done in 10 days. And then, like, first you have to think about your whole plot and what problems stick out to you as you're reading through of, like, oh, this doesn't match up with the end. And then mostly just cementing voice. It's hard to talk about revisions and what works because my process is literally just sitting down and reading it and being like, that's not right. That doesn't feel right. That's not right.
I really like Susan Dennard's web. Is that how you say her name? I always do this.
Susan Dennard?
Dennard. Thank you. Susan Dennard's way of revising, because it, like, really lays it out for you. If you're not sure where to start, like, you go to her website, it's just like, now you do this, then you print out this worksheet, and you go through this for character development. And that helps me because I'm such a scatterbrained person that I need to be able to sit down and be like, okay, I work off this list, I use these worksheets, and I can sort my brain out enough to get started on it. Because if you don't sort of know where you're going next, it's the same with plotting. You can just sit there and not ever get started.
I don't hate. I really don't like the first round of revisions, but I love, like, the process that Susan Dennard laid out. Because it goes step by step. But I really love, once I slog through, like, the awful parts of, like, everything sucks and you have to fix it all. I love going, like, chapter by chapter through. And, like,
See,
I can add this here and add this scene.
I have a question for you guys. Because normally how I do it, or used to do it, is I would write the rough draft. I would go back through and I would change things for sentence structure and be like, I don't like how this part of the voice sounds, and I would change it. Do you guys do that? Because I've had people tell me, you don't want to do that because you might take out this whole chunk later on, and then your hours would be wasted.
No,
or do you
I do
that?
that all the time. What I do when I basically, now the longer I'm writing, the cleaner my first drafts are. Which is like a miracle. I get so excited when when you're in that writing mode and you're just like, this is not absolute garbage. So my process is really first draft, and then I go through the first round of revisions myself, and mostly because I try to rein in the plot more often now and not let myself pants it. I know that there aren't any major plot issues that I have to address. So I do fix things like, oh, I don't like this line, it doesn't sound like the voice, and I fix that first because I can't even, like, I can't consider it without knowing that it all sounds or reads the way that I want it to, because then I'm like, if it reads correctly, then when I hand it off to Kelly, who usually gets it after my first or second round of revisions, Kelly will understand it if I write it correctly in this voice, but without that, she'll be like, why is this here? Take it out.
That's exactly what I was kind of thinking when people said that to me, is I can't not go through and fix things, because when I send it to beta readers, I don't want them being like, oh, all of these sentences are awkward and you need to fix this, right? Because like, I don't want them to concentrate on that.
The voice isn't strong. You're like, well, if I had revised for the voice, then it would be strong.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's not necessarily great advice. Like, I feel like I do have to go through it at initial time. And
advice on revisions are so fluid that, like, no one way goes right.
Yeah, it's what works for you.
I hate revising too many times, which is why I love revising, because I know that, like, 3 drafts in and I'm out. I'm out.
Lovely.
And I'm done. But like, if I was doing like 30 rounds of revisions, I feel like I'd be overworking the story too much, and I'd lose where I started, and then I'd be like, well, I hate this, and I don't want to publish it anymore. I want it out. Burn it.
One thing I do feel like is really, really important, there aren't very many things that I say every writer should do, but I think that every writer, when you're starting revisions, you should read the whole thing from start to finish. And read it like a critiquer. Don't read it like it's your baby and you love everything about it and it's perfect. Be surprised when it surprises you and it's not horrible. But also look at it like, there's a plot hole here. I don't understand why this character did this. And if you just write those down, no matter what method you do for revisions later, it's going to have some level of success.
And I'll tell you, for me at least, it works really well reading it through one time before I start, because I have a very terrible memory, so a lot of times when I'm reading, I'm like, I forgot this happened. Like, this is interesting. I'll read like a line, I'm like, I wrote that? I wrote that line. Good job, past Erica. Nailed it.
That is so
like
funny because that reminds me of me so much, Erica. Like, my sister and I would watch movies together all the time when we were younger, and we watched the Lemony Snicket, the first movie that came out, and we watched it the first time, and we had it for a week from the movie store. We watched it 3 days later, and I still remember going, oh, there's a plot twist, I bet. This is going to happen. And she turns and looks at me and is like, you watched this 3 days ago. So, yeah.
3 days have passed, though. Like, give me a break. I got a lot going on up here. No, but like, really, especially since, especially since, like, writing the first draft for me, it takes all of my brain to do it. So, like, I only focus on what I'm on for that day and what's coming next. So a lot of times what's behind me, like, I vaguely remember major plot points, but, like, specifics, I don't remember specific lines that I've written. So I go back and I reread them. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Or, like, this is it. This talks about character.
Okay, wait, before we get any further, I keep trying to wait for like a natural pause, and it's just not coming. On the topic of Susan Dennard, she is writing, or she already wrote, a pep talk for Write All Year, which is going up tomorrow. So if you wanted to check that out, it will be on the Write All Year website, and it's amazing because she's amazing. Carry on.
WriteAllYear.patrick-press.com. Plug.
That's so awesome. Oh, I love her. So I have a question for you guys as well. And this is what I'm struggling with, how many revisions are too many revisions? Like, you mentioned, like, 3 rounds of revisions and you're done?
I do between 3. The most I do is, like, 5. I think if I went through 5. Like 10, for me personally, again, it's all, like, a matter of how you write and how you revise. Because every time I revise, I revise everything. Every time I revise. I don't do it in stages of, like, just revising for character and just revising for this. I revise like a parrot. So for me, if I did more than 5 rounds of revisions, I feel like it would be really overworked. But, you know, for some people, if you do it piece by piece, it's not that detrimental, you know? It really depends on the style of revision.
I could not do what Erin has done with Ellaline. I know.
I'm at the point where I am incredibly frustrated because I absolutely love the characters and I don't want to let them go. But I have literally erased the entire thing and rewritten it twice. And then also done, like, huge chunks of revisions.
No wonder you hate revisions.
Stress thinking about
why you hate revisions. Come here, give me a hug, Erin.
I need a hug. I don't know what to do with it now, you know? I mean, and I have someone else who wants more revisions, and I love her ideas, so... But I don't know.
I think a lot of times when it comes to revisions... I think a lot of times it has to do with... I'll listen to a lot of feedback I'm given, but I will also stand by, like, this is how it has to be. Yeah. Unless it's, like, something huge where it's like, oh, my God, yeah, you're totally right. That person suddenly blowing up makes no sense because they're in a daisy field and it has nothing to do with the plot. I'll take out the explosion. You got me. But, like, you know, for the most part, there are things in my book that I really believe and stand behind, and I'll, like, fight Kelly on it if I believe strongly enough in it. I'll be like, I'm not going to edit that. You'll see why later. But this is, like, setting something up or something like that. Like, I'll stick to my guns on certain issues.
I definitely do think, I definitely agree that you have to stick with your guns. That type of thing. Like, I definitely think that this has been a learning experience more than anything. Like, things that are my weaknesses, like going through the manuscript. Oh my God, I've been going through the manuscript for the past 3 days, and the amount of filter words that I have found in that baby are incredible. Like Emmeline thought, and then proceed with the thought, and I'm like, no, must erase. And so I've been going through and erasing all of those. There's so many of them. I didn't even
filter
realize
words I keep catching myself on too. I think when you listen to edits that you're hearing from a lot of people, like if you send it out to 3 people and they all come back and they're like, I don't understand why you chose this point of view, or I don't like the tense is throwing me off really terribly, and it's like it could be great if it was in present tense, or if you're getting feedback consistently, listen to that. Like that is significant feedback. That listen to it. I'm not saying ignore feedback, especially repeated ones, but there are some issues that I feel that it's okay to kind of fight on, and a lot of that I think has to do with characters.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because I definitely have had a lot of the same feedback, but it's one of those things where you're thinking so hard about how do I fix this, and it seems like it might be impossible because it's like someone telling you like your voice, I don't like the voice. And you're like, okay, that's the entire manuscript.
I never. If someone says they don't like your voice, then your book just isn't for them. Like that's my opinion. Is I have my writing voice.
Or you haven't developed your voice yet, right?
Yeah.
Like that's happened too. Like I've had somebody say to me earlier on in my writing, and they were right. Like your voice is uneven, and I can't connect with the character because it's doing this and then it's doing that. Yeah.
But
which
if
was
it's
so
just like,
true.
oh, I don't like your voice, then it's like, well.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's not
There's not really much I can do about that. So, I just don't like your face. It's really bumming me out.
Your
Sorry.
wholeness.
I apologize. I'm so sorry.
Voice is a really, really hard thing to edit.
Mm-hmm.
It's the type of thing that I feel like I would do. I don't suggest other people do this, but I feel like if I wrote a manuscript and the voice wasn't there, like my initial one, I feel like I would move on from that and keep developing my voice with the next manuscript and the next one, which is sort of a little bit what I'm doing right now.
I think it's so hard to pull apart the author from their voice. Like, even if you write multiple stories from multiple characters and multiple genres, your voice will still be relatively, like, you should be able to pick up any Libba Bray book. Using her because I love her. And I instantly recognize her voice, even though the worlds are so different. Like, it's Libba Bray, I know it's Libba Bray. Or John Green, although his books are mostly similar. But, like, there are characters who carry across, and you can tell just from picking up a page and be like, yep.
Oh, for sure.
And you could probably do it with the Word Nerds. Like, I'm pretty sure I could have a chapter from each of you and be like, oh, well, this one's Erica's and this one's
we should do that sometime. That would be really fun.
Like a video once, right, Megan? Like a voice video?
I did it with, it was
but
like
that was just our personal email flails.
Yeah.
That wasn't our writing. It was just us freaking out.
I forgot that was a part of that video.
It was funny.
We've got a bunch of comments. So let's address some of these. This is from Nat's the Ninja. Have you ever diverted from the intended plot and ended up with a better story?
Oh, I was thinking about this one because I saw the question, and I do. And I think if you have an idea that's different from the plot that you originally set out, you almost have to try it. Yeah, because if it's enough to like divert your attention. So in my example, I had a plot set up. I had like the first half of the plot set up and ready to go, and I was like getting started on it because it was Nano and stuff. It was about this like sweet girl who had done some terrible things in her past lives, and everyone hated her for it, and it was unfounded hate. And I had like an idea of where I wanted it to go and what I wanted her to do and how she was going to come out the conqueror and stuff. And partway through, I was like, oh, I don't think she's a sweet girl, and I don't think their hate is unfounded. Yeah. So I went back and started over.
And I love that
the
so much
manuscript is so much better for it, and I think the idea itself is a lot better for it.
I agree.
I specifically remember when you brought that up. Was that this year's Nano project?
Megan?
Did I freeze?
No.
No.
Megan's just not answering you.
It's because she hates me?
I guess so.
Could she not hear you? Megan?
Megan?
Sorry, my headphones cut out. Say it one more time.
I was just asking, was that this year's Nano project?
Yeah.
Because I think I specifically remember the email where you're like, I think my good guy's a bad guy, and I was like, yes, do it.
Is that the one that we were talking about in writers group?
It's in a writing group, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That is the idea that makes me so excited, and it's not my idea. It's rare.
For me, I don't think I've ever had something that's thrown me like a plot suddenly significantly changed, at least. Like I might have had a scene or two where I'm like, well, that's stupid. That's changing. For me, it's mostly characters change. Like,
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, an upcoming story that I had this idea of the character, and then I realized I haven't started writing it. Well, I have, but not really. I'm rewriting it. And I realized, I was like, this isn't her at all. She's not, like, timid in this. She's, like, a much stronger, completely different person than I thought she was. So it's mostly, for me at least, the characters change, and it makes the plot better because it makes more sense.
It's funny because I did the exact same thing because I did a bunch of like word sprints the other night, and one of the scenes was one of my characters I'd already planned out interacting with the main character, and I thought this character was going to be like sort of what do they call that? John Green writes all of his girl characters like this.
Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah, Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And I was like, she's pretty much going to be a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Because honestly, I know that people don't like that sometimes, but I actually really enjoy reading and watching those characters. So I'm like, I'm going to have one girl, but she's a 19th century version of a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And so I was going to have her like this. But she sort of came out different on the page. She's still a little bit like that, but she's like really obsessed with like death and stuff. So she's she's like really a dark version of this. So
she's like a Wednesday Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah, sort of. So and she's sort of dreamy and stuff. So yeah, it wasn't at all how I planned her. So.
And I think that's like a lot of character development. You can do so much, but then once you start writing them, sometimes you're like, no. Here's how I'm going to talk, because this is who I am. And you're like, I'm sorry. I thought you were this guy. You're right. You're this guy. My mistake. You take over now. But please follow these instructions to the plot. Be on your best behavior, if possible.
Things morph and change.
I think the worst thing is when your character morphs or surprises you enough that, like, you have to change some of the plot.
And
where like, it doesn't make sense anymore that they would do those things.
I find myself going back, and like I said, because I don't know my main character when I first start, so I have to go back, and about the first half of it a lot of time is stuff that this character would never say or do. And so I have to change a whole bunch of that.
Yep. Revisions. More comments. This one's from Hannah. She says she has trouble finding time in between work, school, and trying to snatch some sleep to write. Tell me about it, kid. Here's my suggestion for that. Is set up a schedule, like a slot in your day that is dedicated to writing. I now have a set schedule, like written down, that I wake up at 7 to read. Like I wake up early so I can read during the day.
That's a good idea.
Nerd alert. And then I come downstairs, I have breakfast, take care of the dog, and then I sit down and I write or I edit. And then once I finish that chapter, then it's everything else in the day. It's like, get your work done, but like you have to carve out time to write, otherwise there's so many things that get in the way, and it just keeps getting in the way.
Yeah, and this is something that I talked about in one of the WordNerd videos called Pencil It In, and exactly what Erica said, like you have to make time for it, but you are the only one who's going to take your writing seriously. And I found this over and over and over again, aside from like the WordNerds and like a couple other people online, nobody else takes my writing seriously. Like it's going to be, so you have to decide that your writing is important. Because nobody else is going to, and you have to dedicate your time to it.
I think your writing is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me the people who don't. I will find them. I'll take care of them, Erin.
Well, it's hard because
like if
you don't have your books on shelves, and you're not necessarily making money off of it yet.
Okay.
Normal people that aren't, pen muggles.
Give me some names.
Bill Gates.
I'll take care of them.
Send you after school.
I will take care of
Michelle Obama. She doesn't care.
them. I will ask for admission.
I think she might win.
But maybe if she
Yeah, I think she's
she
got
would care.
You'd be surprised. I'm very
She would
convinced.
have some pipes. Obama would.
I mean, Aaron's right. If you don't
How do we get
pencil
on
it
this
in, if you
subject?
don't treat it quite
Yeah.
literally like a job, you're not going to get it done. That's why
Yeah.
just, like, set a time. It might be in the middle of the night, but find, like, some time during your day. Hopefully not in the middle of the night if you can help it. Or if you work best. Whatever works for you. I'm not going to
I
judge.
know a lot of people, in one of the chicken soup books I was reading, weirdly enough, there was a guy that a lady came every day in the parking lot to eat her lunch because she didn't like her work people or something. I don't know. There's a big story behind it. So she would be parked beside this pickup truck every day at lunch for a half an hour, and she would see the same guy get into the pickup truck and start writing. And he did this every day for like 15 years or some ridiculously long amount of time. And then eventually she worked up the nerve to talk to him, and she found out what his name was. And later when she looked it up, he had a book on the bookshelf. And it was because he had come every single day on his lunch break and sat in the parking lot of his truck and ate his bologna sandwich and took the time for himself to write.
I mean, you have to deconstruct. When you look at writing a book, it's this huge mountain. I almost just cursed. That was close. It's this huge mountain that you're like, I'm never going to be able to finish this. It's 90,000 words or 80. Like, how? But, like, if you break it down day by day and you're like, okay, if I write 1,000 words a day, that still will take me a while. But you're making progress and you start looking at the chart.
Still, it would take you less than 3 months.
Yeah, and if you write all year has a really great spreadsheet and you can see the word counts rise. Like, I wrote 20,000 words in January and I didn't start until halfway through January, but then I wrote
Awesome.
a full short story 20,000 words later. That was like 2 weeks. So you have to break it down to, I do chapters, so I'm like 1 chapter a day, and usually my books aren't longer than like 30 chapters, so a book a month. You can do that, Erica. That's not too bad.
Just a book a month.
Just keep writing.
And the scary thing is she can do it.
I wrote most of Insight in a month. Just have to make time for it. You can do it. I believe in you. We all believe in you. More comments. Kendall says, hello, it's her first time watching live. Hi, Kendall. Thanks for watching. Geraldine asked, how many drafts do we usually go through before we think our manuscript is ready for publication? Which we kind of touched base on. It varies per manuscript.
Never.
Varies the publication you're looking for as well. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of why Erin has done so many Emmeline edits is because agents are looking at it and giving their feedback, whereas me and Eric are just like, this is how I like it, this is how I'm doing it.
Yeah, and it's also going to be like when you guys are doing your indie publishing, it's up to you when you decide this is good to go. And that would be a feeling of incredible freedom. But this is like agents are going to always have like different feedback. A lot of it's going to be similar, but then there's always going to be separate, different ideas that they have because everyone's individual and unique.
Did you ever get an edit that went against one that another agent, like you revised it this way for that agent, then you had another one be like, put it back?
Well,
did you have anybody
yes.
have like,
I had exactly that.
Oh my god.
But it's not too bad.
I imagine.
I have about like 50% of them said one thing and 50% of them said the other, and they're opposite. So I have 2 versions.
And that's where you very much have to keep in mind that you get a vote too. So
Yeah. But it's the kind of thing where it's hard because you're like, it was to do with the beginning of it where a lot of them wanted it chopped down. And I'm like, but I still love the beginning, but I also agree with the other half, right? Because it's your baby and it's really hard to see subjectively. So
yeah, I think it's really easy to, when you're in the query process or when you're trying to decide like whether you want to do it, I think it's really easy to like vilify them, be like, oh, they want me to change everything, but really agents really just want your book to be the best it can possibly be, and
and they might
be
just
the
have
best it can be with
different ideas.
you have to like mesh.
Yeah, even like
like a
Mhm.
relationship.
even Kelly and I, like, we try to hold each other accountable of, like, this isn't
Yeah.
ready to go. Or, like, you know, you have to have some kind of publishing standard, even if you're self-publishing. I mean, like, you don't have to, but I would highly, highly recommend it. Like, you want to publish the best thing possible, because who likes bad reviews? Like, if
Yeah.
you could prevent yourself getting bad reviews
Nobody.
by listening to edits,
Okay, you
Listen
can't,
to-
you can't prevent bad reviews just by
well,
listening
you
to
can,
it.
you can prevent, like, a bunch of them that
Yes.
would point out that one thing that you didn't listen to, you know, but
Yeah.
you'll get bad reviews anyway, but
Well, even books
You can
that
save
have
a
been
lot
through
of them.
agents and editors and everything get bad reviews. My favorite books get bad reviews. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it really shows when you're self-publishing very professionally, you're going to do things differently. You're going to have a lot of people read it. You guys pay like a crap ton for editors. And it
yes,
like
they're
I
worth
would
it.
never
It's so
pick
worth
that book up and be like, what's this doing here? Because those books belong on shelves.
Mm-hmm.
More questions. This one's from Hannah. How do you work through a slump? For example, if you write the bits that you feel really driven to write, like Kelly was saying earlier, and then hit a part that isn't exciting to you, how do you get through that? Do you write through and let revisions and edits pick up the slack after, or skip ahead and wait until you're feeling it? I think Kelly mostly talked about this earlier. Kelly.
Why it is you're not excited to write it, because you may have come across a problem where your reader isn't excited to read it. So you need to figure out what the issue is there, or find the cookie, as Susan Dennard would say, and like what's going to make the scene more exciting for you.
Oh, Susan.
No, cookies.
Yeah, I
Because
think
yeah, if
that's
you
a
have
good
to
point.
write it,
Everyone
it's going
come
to come
over.
across in your writing. So come back to it if you
There
need to,
will-
but figure out what the problem is.
Yeah,
Well,
there will
and
be times when you do just get tired of writing it. That's the middle usually, but there should be something
Yeah.
exciting in every scene, or something that, like, every scene serves a purpose, so it shouldn't be like, oh, gotta get through this part where they're just walking for 12 hours or 12
Yeah.
pages.
Ooh. Sounds like fun.
Lord of the
Or
Rings.
it could be other things too, right? Like my problem where I abandoned it because honestly I knew that I'd gone way off the rails with the plot line. I need to go back and read the whole thing over and then replot it. I'm like, I just don't have the time or energy to do that right now, so I'm starting on something new. I'm not saying that you should do that because it's not a good idea, but definitely diagnose why you don't want to go on. Is it because you don't know what's happening next, or is it because you've painted yourself into a corner? Like me?
It happens.
Figure out what
It
it is so
happens.
you can fix it.
Another comment, this one's from Diana. How do you write a good boy's point of view without making it sound too girly or too unrealistic for a boy? Point of order. I don't believe any kind of voice is too girly for a boy.
I was
feel that
about
there
to say
are boys who have feminine voices, and that's not, embrace it, you know? You don't
Yeah.
have to have a stereotypical
Although I think it should
Gender is a
binary
spectrum.
voice.
but it should be
Mhm.
on purpose. If it's a girly voice, it shouldn't be girly because you're a woman and you've written it and people can tell
Yeah.
you're a woman.
Yeah.
Which it sounds weird to say
Yeah,
that.
if it's part of the character, great, but if it's your
Yeah.
voice overshadowing the character's voice, then yeah, it's something you need to look at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
We
if he's
did a
not a
live chat
feminist,
about
but he gets mad about feminist things or something because you're a feminist. That type
Yeah,
of
but
thing.
you could still totally have a character get mad about feminist things. I encourage
I want
it.
to read
I
it
encourage
from
it.
a YA point of view from a guy who's a feminist. Is there such a thing
Mhm.
as that book?
There's got to be one out there
Not
somewhere.
feminist boys,
not-
I mean, is there such a thing as that book? I know there's feminist guys.
Aaron, we're live. No, but I
There
think,
needs
like,
to
you
be
know,
a
if
YA about a male feminist.
you also, like they said, if your own personal voice is coming through the character, that's a problem whether you're writing female characters or male characters. So that's an issue that you have to address separately. But if you're worried that your male character is sounding too girly, I don't like that phrase. I don't think that there's such thing as, like, someone
depends,
sounding too
Maybe
girly.
he's
or
not
something.
macho enough, and he's meant to be really macho. Maybe that's a way to phrase it. Like how do you make him
explore the
more-
character and what
Yeah.
who the character is.
Yeah.
Because
Like
That's a
it's
fair
not
point.
sounding too girly, it's sounding as though they have a feminine perspective when they shouldn't.
when they shouldn't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
maybe
did
give them a
whole
reason to have one. Do they
hour-long
have a lot
live
of
stream
sisters?
about this too, so you can find that
I
in the
Two
archives.
different ones.
Yeah.
I think
We had
it's a
one
good
on
idea
females and
to,
one on males.
like, if you're going to write from a point of view of a dude, like, I would partly base it on someone I know in real life and then talk to them without necessarily telling them, hey, I'm writing from your point of view. But, like, you know, say if I'm writing from, like, switching point of views, I've asked my husband before, like, when you, like, not necessarily give me details, what are your deepest thoughts, but, like, how would you phrase this in a way that I wouldn't, right? Because I know we think of things differently. How would you say this, right? Ask a guy when in doubt.
There are a lot of ways that you can work with it. Like, maybe the character has sisters, and he's got insight because of his sisters, or character development will help you a lot with that. But if you're still challenged with the voice, I think just practicing
And
is
read
the
a
best way to
lot.
do it.
Reading.
Yeah, read
Reading
books from
guy
male point of view.
POV.
Watch
Yeah.
TV shows with this might be hard to find, but if you can find a TV show with a male lead, they're out there. You just have to search really hard for them, but they're out there somewhere.
Sarcasm.
Maybe in movies. I don't know if they have male-driven movies, but maybe in 2015 we've got to see some soon. So.
It's hard to find.
What else we got in the comments?
I think we're good with comments. I think we're good with comments.
I was going to say more about the male POV. Have you guys written in one before?
Yes. I officially have.
Woo!
Well, actually, a couple times now. I was just counting the anthology, but Insight is also told through a male point of view because of Az, which I briefly forgot about him.
I've written
I
about
love his point of view.
Me too.
I'm obsessed with
He's
it.
fun to write.
He's scary.
I think when I go into different points of views, regardless if they're male or female, you've got to get in that mindset of like, you leave your own body and your own opinions behind, and you're just like, here I am, in this new frame of mind, ready to kill somebody. Not because he's male, because he's a demon.
Non-writers must think we are so crazy, like writers in general.
I am.
Yeah.
Like I am. True. Fair enough.
Just how we phrase things. Get out of your own body and into someone else's head.
You do.
And get ready to kill someone.
Yeah. Well.
Don't forget that part.
It's, in a way, it's like acting. You know, if you're an actor, you've got to become somebody else. It's like that, but instead of like moving around and doing it outside of yourself, you're just writing down
Moving around.
that character.
I mean,
Look, I'm
without
acting.
storytellers, there would be nothing for
Like
actors to portray.
Tree.
See?
An octopus tree.
Everybody's a little bit crazy. Just embrace it and let the voices talk to them. As long as they're saying good things.
Yeah,
things.
don't say any bad things.
No.
I'm
Like,
trying to. I have a
character.
difficult character right now, and I'm like trying to figure out how to write her properly because I don't want her to be like crippled at the thought of death, because basically she's indirectly killed like 5 people, but I still want her to be
It
quirky
happens.
and like kind of funny, and I don't want her to be like, oh my god, I've killed people the entire book, because that gets really boring. So I don't know how to make it so that she has a conscience, but that she's not like crippled by the fact that she's killed people. I don't know. I'm like stuck. Because I feel like if she's just like, oh yeah, whatever, then people are going to be like, wow, she's horrible.
Maybe if you phrase it in like she's trying to move on and become a better person from it, or like learn something from it, or like she could have some kind of break and have to put herself back together.
Have you read the Paranormal Sea series?
No.
I
But it
haven't.
sounds amazing.
It's by Kirsten White. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but that character, she's like a demon hunter, so she like kills things a lot, but she has a very bubbly voice. Like, I'm Evie, what the bleep is going on? I'm like, oh.
Well, I mean, like Selena in The Throne of Glass, she's killed a lot of people.
She's killed some
and
people.
That's
she's
true.
bubbly, but she has her moments of like not bubbly. So I think that's how you do it. Is like sometimes
She's
it's
also
like denial of like
she
I'm
was
not gonna
taught to
face
be an
that.
assassin, right? Though, so she was
Yeah.
taught to like get into this.
But she
My-
still
and
had
my
that
girl isn't.
conscious. Oh,
Yeah, I guess so.
Have her
I
just
feel like
shatter
I feel
her
like
once
Selena
and have
is
her
more like-
rebuild.
I don't know. I'm torn on that.
I would shatter her and then rebuild her.
But she's also not like
break her.
Jeez.
Devastate
alarm me
her.
sometimes.
Devastate her and build her back.
Ruin her. But she doesn't. She also is not like Selena. Like Selena actually killed these people by hand. This girl paints pictures. Her aunt and uncle send the pictures. And these pictures kill the people. And it was like maybe she won't even know that this happens. But then I don't think she's.
Maybe it takes her a while to figure it out. Maybe that's
Till
it.
she
It's
kills
just like
grandma.
coincidences. Yeah, it's coincidences until like the end when it's like, oh my god, am I doing this?
That I did this. That's it.
Did I do that? Ooh.
That's a thought.
Oh,
Originally, I
no.
just
and
had
then
it that
break
her
her.
aunt and uncle.
Then
Whoa! You're really
break her, Aaron.
break her.
You have to break her.
Okay, I'll take that note. Originally, I just had it that her like aunt and uncle were telling her that it was just bad people, but I don't know if that like she's not young. She's like 16, so she probably is not going to buy that line. I don't know.
It could be like a brainwashing thing. Like with Selena, she had to do that because that was her way
That's
of life,
true.
and that was the way that she lived. And the person who
That's
raised her to kill people. So it could just kind of be like a Stockholm syndrome situation. Break
I
her,
like that.
Aaron. Break her.
I think I've just
It's my
written for
best
my notes,
advice for
break her
anybody.
over and over on my notes.
You're gonna wake up and you have like a notebook page with just break her written in all sorts of different
And
styles,
it
just
was
all
red.
over
all
it.
over your
That
walls.
needs to be like a
Yeah.
horror
Red.
film. That
It's
reminds
all-
me of that movie with Johnny Depp in it, Shoot Her. It was Shooter. Did you guys ever see that movie, Secret
I
Window?
don't think I did.
Oh.
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, where he writes
Yeah, I
Shooter
love that
all over the
movie.
wall, and then the door closes, and it's like Shoot Her.
Everybody needs to watch that movie. That's gotta. Oh, just.
And he's a writer. He's a writer in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
so it's
yeah,
he's a
basically-
little possibly crazy? Question mark. I'm not gonna say.
No
He's
spoilers,
great. Go
which I
watch
just
that movie.
totally gave you a big spoiler. But you should still watch it.
No. He's writing a book.
Shooter. Shoot her.
Break her. Break her.
Oh my god, get away from the screen. It's like a close-up. Break her.
Do it, Aaron. There's no other choice.
Oh my god, I'm scared.
See, my main issue
Okay, I
is sometimes,
promise
like, when characters misbehave, you gotta yell at them back. Like, As was hard to write for Insight because, well, one, that's a dark place to go to. But then coming up, like, I'm writing from Lilith's point of view. Like, that Lilith, like, demon
Adam and
Lilith.
Eve Lilith? Oh!
Oh,
I like it.
yeah. And she's going to be hard to write just because she's Lilith, and that's an interesting voice to capture. But also she's got, like, secrets that I can't tell until the end of the
That's
book,
so
but she will be a
hard.
point of view character, so I'm going to be walking a
I
tightrope.
don't know how to do that. Ask Megan how to do that.
I will have to...
Revisions.
run it by
Lots
Megan,
of
too.
revisions.
I'll probably be running, like, the final draft by Megan and be like, did you see it coming or didn't you? Did you see this coming or didn't you? How can I hide it?
I don't know if I'm advanced enough yet to write an unreliable narrator. Like, I honestly
It's
don't
so
know if I
much
can trust
I
myself
think
to
you
do
are.
that.
Anyone
you
can do
so-
it with enough
You can do
revisions.
it. I think it's
I
fun.
don't
I'm enjoying it
I have
immensely.
that much faith in myself.
We
I
have
have
enough
that faith in
for
you.
We'll cover
You
the
guys.
faith. You just do it.
Yeah.
I always
Do
feel
you
better after
think?
each chat.
Break her.
Ah!
Break her. We have faith in you.
I'm gonna be like,
You can do
sleeping
it.
I'm gonna be sleeping at night, muttering, "Break her, break her." In my sleep.
Your husband will be like, oh my gosh.
You should just whisper it in your sleep and see how that comes across.
Raspy whisper. My poor husband.
If there are two things you take away from this, it's we believe in you.
And we're
break her.
crazy.
Yeah.
Break her.
Kill your darlings.
I'll
Maybe
break
I
her.
will now, just because I'm gonna give her a complete mental breakdown, and it's gonna be your fault.
Do it. Do it. You should.
Give
She's killing all these
her-
people.
Yeah.
I always
Great
give
stuff.
notes to Kelly like, twist the knife. That's one of my favorite notes to give is, this is sad, twist it. What if you did this? Like, there was a note I gave her for mortality, which I won't go into, but read it, and then maybe you'll find out. Mortality, Kelly Sheridan, that's I-E in Kelly Sheridan. But I gave her a note, I was like, what if this happened and was even more painful for this character later? And she's like, that would be painful. I was like, do it.
You could break her
Do it.
more.
Make it hurt.
You
Make
need a
it hurt
teacher
or
Do
or
things
something.
so much worse to your characters than just killing them. You just have to get creative.
You guys
Yep.
scare me.
See, Megan and I are in the same wavelength here. Do it. Make them suffer.
Okay.
Well, because think about it. You like books where the characters suffer. Otherwise,
Sure.
it's boring. I mean, you want them to
I
have
also like
hopefully
seeing
books
when the
where
side
the
characters
characters
are like inconceivably twisted and messed up. That's my favorite type of book.
Well, like right now, I'm reading The Assassin's Blade, which
Yes.
I know what's going to happen to Sam.
I know.
I know what's going to happen.
I know.
But I'm
I just finished
reading it
complaining
because
about
I'm
that
like,
to Kelly.
It's not going to happen. No way it's going to
Denial.
It is.
happen. But I
It's so
know.
sad. If I hadn't
know.
read the rest of the series, I would have been so depressed after finishing that book.
I can't wait. I
Let's
can't
be
wait though. Like that's emotion is good in books. Like you want people to
sad.
be in pain and then
I
like
wanna
really happy. Like every time he's on page, I'm like, hey, Sam, I love you. And I'm just getting to the big parts that he comes in. So
I
it's gonna
feel
get
like
worse.
I have to reread the other books now to like know the full extent of her. Although, okay, I can't. I'm gonna go into it and be like spoilery, so I'm not going to say.
It's fine. Basically, the note is suffering is good for characters.
All right,
It's good
We-
for them.
are at the hour point. So, do we have any other questions, comments on the writing process?
One more comment is just from Ellie, and she says she loves writing male point of view. She writes male point of view in a Wattpad story. Her favorites have been in the Starbound series, The Winter's Curse, and Stolen Songbird, compared to something like Monument 14, which I actually thought was a female even after the crush was introduced. It can sometimes be hard to show. So yeah, just read a bunch of books. That's the best advice if you are having trouble nailing something. Read a bunch of different books and with that point of view or that voice or whatever issue you have, and you'll suss it out. We believe in you.
I actually
You
have,
can do it.
I have a few questions on Wattpad I just discovered. Do you ever set out to write a story from one genre and end up with another? If so, how do you deal with it? Do you change it or keep going?
If anything, it'll be like I try to write a contemporary and then like I kill somebody and they come back to life, or they're like an angel, or they're something undead, and I'm like, oh, this wasn't supposed to be paranormal.
That's pretty
This
much
was
what
something
happened
that
to
I
me.
noticed
Nuts.
with
Yeah.
when I was reading Insight was actually that like Ignite was like really romantic, very very romantic.
It takes a
then
turn.
Insight it gets very dark, but I liked it because it was done well and it felt like an evolution of like what genre it was in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you can do it well as long as it feels like
Natural.
intentional.
Not mistakenly changing into something else.
Yeah.
And then there's one more question. How do you try to get others interested in your writing? I told Mom I was writing a story, and she just said, that's nice. It's sort of what I was talking about earlier.
We're interested in it for. Who cares about them? We care about you.
Talk
in
to
your
other
writing.
friends.
There is a
Your
fantastic
precious writing.
other writers online who will cheer you on, and but at the same time, you have to be willing to cheer other people on as well. Like, it's a community. It's not just.
You know what you should do? You should really join a community like Write All
Like
Year,
Write All
where
Year.
there's a community of writers writing all year and encouraging each other. You should, yeah, definitely. Communities of other writers who are also writing. It's great. Right, Megan? Join me here.
Yes. I loved what Kelly said though about like you have to give to receive.
really
I think
do.
when you're first starting out, it will feel like you're giving more than you're receiving. But that's the only way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. And
You'll
it's not necessarily like you're not just giving. It's like you're making friends Like, that sounds sweet.
Yeah.
You're like, we're friends.
You are.
Look at us.
Yeah. We've never met each other in
All of us.
person.
No.
It doesn't matter because I
One
talk
day.
to you more than some of the people I know in real life.
One
This is
day
the
we will meet in person.
third day in a row that I have had hours of Erica.
You sound so enthusiastic about
Living the life.
Whoa.
Love it.
Erica's like pixelating because she's moving so much.
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
You'll find people I like, because now Erica and I, we talk all the time, and we're intimately familiar with each other's writing. That, like, I know what stories that are probably years out from being written, and I know good chunks of the plot. And then you have those people you can bounce ideas around with, as long as you're there for them as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how you find
Or
beta
like-
readers.
Yeah, Erin and I started out as
Kelly's
beta
a good.
Yeah.
Kelly's a good gate for me. Of like, hey Kelly, I'm gonna write a 26-book series, and she's like, easy now.
No, you don't.
How about 3?
What about 26 though? That's close. I can do it. I believe. There's good to have someone to be like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah. Something else you
Honesty.
can try is if you are looking to like meet someone in person to encourage you, you should try your school. I think you would be surprised at how many people write in secret. At my university, a few years back now, it's been a little while, I just like showed up to this children's publishing class and someone wrote on the board, we're starting a writing group, meet outside after class.
That's
If
so
you're interested,
cool.
and I'm still with that writing group.
Libraries
Yes.
sometimes have that too, so check
Yeah.
local libraries. If you're like in high school, there might be a writing program. Like I took advanced composition in high school, and I was in journalism because I was like, that's writing,
Yeah, that's what I did too.
at least of some sort.
If you're in or near a big city, in November, NaNoWriMo can be good for that too, that they do group meetups for people you want to meet in person, that like not everyone's going to write in your genre or be people you want to hang out with, but in a big city you do tend to get a lot of people, and you will find some people that you can stay in contact with. And
Make
I've
sure
met a
if
few
you're
writing
younger
friends
that
that
you bring like an
great.
adult with you
Yes.
Yeah.
into a situation where you're meeting people from online. We want to be very clear that if you are young,
Yeah.
even if you're not young,
online, it's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, or if you're not comfortable with it, like
Yeah.
online is great.
Google Hangouts is great. Skype.
Google Hangouts is great in theory most of the time.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it takes, but, like, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about any of you murdering me because of this screen.
I
Well,
sort
we
of
meet,
worry
though.
about you sometimes, Eric.
I feel like it wouldn't be me out of the group. Me
But
or
even
Megan.
if you feel really comfortable and stuff, it's like important to make sure that someone knows where you're going and how long you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
General
That's
safety.
important.
Well, when I started
You
a
should know
writers
where you're
group
going
in,
anyway.
I started a writers group in Victoria, and I just made sure it was always in a public place, like a coffee house or something. You just
Don't get in other
go in
people's
someone's
cars.
house or something.
General,
Yeah,
General like intelligence and common sense. You'll be fine.
pretty much.
And I think we're good.
On that grim
Yeah.
note.
On that, a lovely note. Find a buddy.
I guess we'll let you guys know what our topic for next week is going to be. Probably
Valentine's
something Valentine's related.
Yes.
Give us suggestions in the comments.
Yes, both for Valentine's
What do
Day
you
and
wanna
just
hear
general
about?
things you'd like to hear us talk about, because we're always open for suggestions. We're here pretty much
Writing.
every week talking about something.
Scenes.
Ew.
So mature.
Hardest time.
We're grown-ups.
My short story. I still have to revise them tonight.
Oh,
I
me
don't
too.
like them.
All
We
right.
talk about how much I suck at romance scenes.
Well, that sounds exciting. So you'll
I'm
definitely.
believing it.
If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. And that's it. Yes, we're good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.